You're listening to the Real Estate Sessions, and I'm your host, Bill Risser. With nearly 25 years in the real estate business, I love to interview industry leaders, up-and-comers, and really anyone with a story to tell. It's the stories that led my guests to a career in the real estate world that drives me in my 10th year and over 400 episodes of the podcast. And now, I hope you enjoy the next journey. Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 427 of the Real Estate Sessions podcast. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for telling a friend. Today, we travel north to Sudbury, Canada. No, I didn't know where that was either when I first started doing my research. However, we're going to learn a lot about Sudbury, and we're going to learn a lot about what goes on in the world of mergers and acquisitions, valuations, all this great stuff, because we have with us today Norma Rawlings. Norma is the founder of BrokerVMA, doing some wonderful stuff in both Canada and the States. And so it's going to be fun. Let's get this thing rolling. Norma, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Bill. It's a pleasure to be on.
Yeah, I'm very excited. You know, you have an operation that kind of helps you locate podcasts that you might want to appear on. And I'm always looking for interesting people with interesting stories. And this is going to be a lot of fun. So I can't wait.
I appreciate your faith in me.
It'll be easy, trust me. My wife and I, we actually honeymooned in Canada. You're Canadian. You live there now. We started in Vancouver and we ended the trip in Edmonton. But along the way, we got to go through the Rockies, and so huge fans. Love what goes on up there. And I have been to the Rogers Center back when it was called the Sky Dome.
Yes.
My wife and I stayed in the hotel that overlooked the field because I worked for the Padres at the time, and it was easy to kind of get a little help on things. And so just a fantastic city, Toronto. But you're not in Toronto. You live a few hours north, correct?
I do. So my husband dragged me kicking and screaming in 93 from London, Ontario to Toronto, Canada. And Toronto is about double the size of San Diego. So it's about 6.4 million people in the greater Toronto area. And we actually marched in the second 93 Blue Jays victory parade. And my husband was articling at the time with a firm that was close to downtown. And Bill, we were out till 2 or 3 in the morning, and we couldn't get a cab, and the subway stopped running. So we slept on the couches in his employer's office after the victory.
Wow. This is Joe Carter's home run in the
yes.
Nelly.
That was 93. So that was Toronto for me. But now I live in Sudbury. So Sudbury is the third largest basin for nickel and copper and precious metals in the world. An asteroid hit it about 1.85 billion years ago. And it's this mining center. It's an integrated mining center where we produce all sorts of nickel and copper and precious metals. And so I came there because I have 4 kids, and my 2 oldest are twin boys. They're a minute apart, Bill, and they are both hockey players. Not baseball players, but hockey players. And so they were both drafted to the Sudbury Wolves OHL team. So it was after COVID. My career is completely digital, meaning I can do it from anywhere. And so we followed them 3 hours north of Toronto to Sudbury. And it is a city of 330 lakes and only 200,000 people. So there's a lake for every 600 people.
Wow. So obviously they're playing hockey now, right?
They are. We've been here for 3 years. Now, okay. As luck would have it, my youngest by a minute was traded to Windsor, just across from Detroit, 13 months in. So he billets during the hockey season, but both of them are still in the OHL. And actually last night I know your Padres experience, you'll appreciate this. Last night, my eldest had his first 5-point game ever. And my youngest he's a defense. He had 2 points, and they're doing really, really well. So I'm delighted that we moved up here.
Oh my gosh, that's great. I've become a hockey fan. Now, back in Arizona, we had the Roadrunners, but it was different than being with the Lightning here. Especially, we moved here in 2017, and the Lightning were just kind of getting it fired up.
Oh, yeah. Tampa Bay is like amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me, so Maple Leafs, is that your team?
No. So what's funny is my eldest was drafted in the NHL draft 2 Junes ago. He was drafted by the Winnipeg Jets.
Okay.
So he's been signed to an entry-level contract with them. We're hoping he'll play in Winnipeg next September. And he's got one more year with Sudbury ending in April. And my younger guy, Bill, Winnipeg invited him to their rookie tournament to play with his brother in September in Montreal in front of 21,000 crazy Well, no, there were 20,900 crazy Montreal fans and 100 Winnipeg Jets fans in the building.
So maybe that saves you some heartache, not having to be a Maple Leafs fan, because I know
we're not.
That's great. I love that.
So we're definitely Jets fans. And my younger guy is hoping for an entry-level contract as well. But if he doesn't, he has an offer from an NCAA school, and he's hoping to generate a couple more this season. He's with the Windsor Spitfires, who are an excellent club this year.
I can't wait to watch for the Rawlings name.
It's actually Walton. So they're my
Walton.
husband's
Okay, sorry.
Walton. So
I'll
the
be
two
watching for
Walton
Walton.
boys.
Okay, good. On the baseball side, you mentioned that, right? I have a history there. Big Blue Jays fan, I'm hoping, because
yes, we are very. We're not very happy that we're going back to LA to do 3 games in a row with only 1 win. That is not a good thing.
It's going to be tough. I think it's still going to be tough. But man, there's like Bichette and Vlad, unbelievable, and then pitching coming out of nowhere for Toronto. Look, I support the Rays because I live here. I'm actually a 10-minute walk to the Trop, right? So I love following the team where I live. I think is critical to me because I grew up in a place where everybody rooted for the other team. When you live in San Diego, so many people come there. They don't root for the home team, and it bothered me. So I support the Rays, and it was fun to watch them through the World Series. They played against the Dodgers themselves back in 2020, lost in 6 games. And then we saw the Yankees lose to the Dodgers last year. And now there's another.
Which is always fun. When the Yankees lose, it's always fun.
Another team in the East. This time it's going to be the Blue Jays gets a shot at the Dodgers, and hopefully they can complete the job.
It's been 32 years. It's been a long time.
Long time. Cool. Well, so that you and I could sit here and talk for the next hour about this stuff. So. But there's somebody listening somewhere that says, I thought she was doing valuation and merger and acquisition stuff. So we're going to get there. But I like to find out, it's a question I ask maybe too many times, but at 15, Norma, what are you thinking? What's your plan? And I know it's hard to have a plan at 15, but was it in real estate and was it doing what you're doing now?
Oh, no. Okay. No, I was going to be a basketball player. The fact that I was a woman at that time, didn't really cross my mind, Bill. It was all about basketball. So I played basketball. I won the award for the best basketball player in my senior year of high school. I went on to play varsity basketball. I thought there was a career there for me. So I suppose, and my husband is very athletic as well. So my 2 girls play volleyball, my 2 boys play hockey, and I played basketball.
You are very busy, I'm guessing, nights and weekends with all kinds of things you must attend, right?
I feel lucky every day. Yes.
Good.
All 4 of them are healthy and happy, and it is a pleasure to follow them around. Yes.
That's great. That's awesome. As I do basic research to kind of trying to find something out about my guests. And for you, it definitely was the list of degrees you've obtained over the years. And I would love for you to maybe just share the stories of each one. I won't say how many there are because it's kind of cool, but I'll let you continue from here.
Sure. So my mom grew up 10 minutes north of the New York-Quebec border in Quebec. So she was bilingual. I grew up in London, Ontario, a very English town. So French called me, and I did 2 years of university in French before I was accepted into law school. So I finished my French BA while in law school in the summers. And then in law school, I liked law because I wanted to work for myself and I loved to read. So the two kind of went together, and I graduated with a law degree and practiced for a while. It was not a passion project for me at all. And so a little later, I went back and got my executive MBA, and that was it. I fell in love with the business education and the people. So my current business partner, Bill, who lives in Bradenton, Florida, he was a classmate of mine, and I remember sitting beside him during the MBA, and he has a great sense of humor, and I swear I laughed more in that class than I learned. But it was a phenomenal experience. And my two best friends, my two best girlfriends, I come from the MBA. So business school was definitely a boon for my relationships in life, and that ends the 3 degrees that I have.
Now, first of all, what was your first kind of job as in with the MBA? And second, how does real estate enter the picture?
So I actually was a family law lawyer, and I wrote a book on family law when I was 28 years old. And I helped people mediate their disputes as a family lawyer. That's what I did before I went back for my MBA. And then with my MBA, the challenge was that I learned how to use Excel, and that allowed me to pitch lenders on lending me money to buy real estate. So that's what started the love of real estate. Was I remember one year, Bill, we had toiled and sweat and earned maybe $150,000 from the law, and we bought a building, and within a year we had increased its value by $1 million. And I remember thinking, this is way more fun.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's the leverage, right? It's that sense of and of course, it can go the other way, as you and I know. But at that point, it didn't, and so that started the love affair with real estate.
So now we got to talk about BrokerVMA. This is the company you own now. I think there's a couple of others too. We're going to have to find out about that. But BrokerVMA stands for valuation and merger and acquisition. So obviously, one of the things that in the world of real estate, the last thing people think about, especially a layman, is going to be the fact that one day somebody might sell that company or they might want to acquire other companies, and even how the recruiting works with all that. It's such a behind the scenes kind of thing. Would you agree with that?
Yes. In fact, my best friend married a German, and he told me a story where he started his company as a nonprofit. And about 3 years in, someone said to him, Matthias, how are you going to ever sell a company that's a nonprofit? And he thought, you know what, you're right. So he created a profit arm and a nonprofit arm and ended up selling it about 15 years later for a nice price. And so you're absolutely right. When you first start out, you're just so confused
Yes.
about what you're doing.
True.
That you just grow organically and try to figure things out. And so what our company BrokerVMA does is it says, okay, you've now created something of value. How do you then exit a winner from that endeavor, right? How do you exit in a way where you sell to someone who shares your values, is going to continue your legacy, and give you money for what you made?
We talk about that, at the agent level, right? I mean, they should be creating a business. It's
Yes.
a much different business than a brokerage, but there's some piece of that could be transferred to somebody else for some money
Oh,
down the
100%.
road. Yeah. Yeah.
Look at Compass, where they're offering high-powered Aperture, the same. They're offering high-powered real estate teams and agents money to move to their brand. Oh, definitely. When you think about it, anything that creates repeatable cash flow has value.
Yeah, absolutely. Was there at the time that you started this company, was there a specific need or gap or something that you saw? Especially because it might be, I know you work all across North America, but maybe did it start in Canada first and then get to the United States? How'd that work?
It actually started in the States first. So my business partner, Wayne Einhorn, has been in the real estate business since he was about 16 years old. So he has a large group of real estate brokers that he coaches. And he and I went to the MBA together. And so in 22, he said to me, Norma, he said, I've got all sorts of people asking about valuations and mergers and acquisitions, and I'm so busy coaching, I can't deal with it. I'd really like you to partner with me. And so over a couple of lunches, and again, he's a very humorous, entertaining person,
Yeah.
I decided, you know what, this sounds like some fun. So that's when we started BrokerVMA. And since then, Bill, we've done all sorts of valuations for companies looking to sell. We've run sales processes for brokerages who want to retire or exit. And we've got a few clients who love to buy. So we actually have 2 clients right now, one in South Carolina, one in New Jersey, who own over 30 different franchises.
Wow. They like to buy.
They
As
like
you
to
said,
buy.
yeah.
And to, when we look at the Compass Anywhere merger, you and I were chatting about it a little bit earlier, they're very good at operating, right?
Yeah.
Like so many real estate brokers struggle to operate the business because oftentimes they're the best salesperson in the place. And so they put out their own shingle, attract people, but somebody who's great at sales sometimes is not as good at sort of operations. And so being able to operate, these two fellows who bought so many locations, they're very good operators.
Yeah. Well, I'll bet you they know the answer to this question maybe as well as you do. I want to know, what is the single most common question that a real estate broker owner asks you when they first are thinking about this process? There must be one question you just go, I know this is coming.
Oh, yeah. What is my business worth? That is the most popular question, Bill. And what they'll do is they'll call me up and they'll say, Norma, I've got 40 agents. I'm in Tucson, Arizona. I have, 250 or $300 million sales volume. What am I worth? And I always say, okay, I can give you a range, but to actually know what you're worth, we need to do a proper valuation. So that is a very common conversation. And I've had, thankfully, I think like you, I really enjoy people and I especially like entrepreneurs. And so I always enjoy those conversations, and many of them lead to a professional valuation being done. And then we run a sales process for them.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know, not trying to put you on the spot, but what percentage of those conversations do you have an owner that's, I'll say it this way, slightly unrealistic?
Oh, so we had an interesting conversation. We had an interesting situation a while back. So we had a Florida brokerage, and they had 100 agents, and they were very productive, independent, and the owner, Bill, had his son-in-law value the brokerage. The problem was the son-in-law was in tech. So, of course, tech companies are valued based on their top line, and it's a much higher multiple. Whereas real estate brokerages are valued based on their EBITDA and a smaller multiple. So he had told his father-in-law that the business is worth at least $3 million. And I had to deliver the message that it was actually only $1 million once I finished my valuation. So that was probably the toughest conversation that I had with an owner. And he was bitterly disappointed. And I had to explain to him that real estate brokerages, they just, all your agents the day after you sell can leave. So they just don't have the same value and the same multiples as a technology company. So that was, now he ultimately ended up selling for about 1.6 million. So it worked out well, but my value was sitting at $1 million. So what he did is he found a strategic buyer that was wanting to enter the Florida marketplace. So it all worked out well.
Yeah, like anything being sold, it's what's someone willing to pay ultimately.
Definitely. And so when we do a valuation, we always say, we're not doing it as a listing document. We're not doing it as a positioning document. What we're trying to tell you is this is what we think it's worth, looking at both buyer and seller. And so it acts as sort of a CIM for them when we then, and the other difficulty with selling a brokerage, Bill, is you think about it. If I own a brokerage and I call you my competitor and I say, Bill, are you interested in buying my company? First of all, you might say, yes, great. But if you say no, then the next day, potentially you're on the phone with all my agents saying, Norma's selling, you may want to come to my place. And so what we provide at BrokerVMA is we give you that confidentiality and that anonymity where you can try out 7 different purchasers without anybody knowing who you are. So it's a valuable process for that reason. It maintains that confidentiality, which is critical, because I remember we dealt with a real estate broker in Toronto, and I always teased that if you wanted everyone in the industry to know what was going on by dinner time, you told him at breakfast something that you said was a secret.
Oh my. So the conversations with that gentleman were few and far between, I'm just guessing?
He was Irish. He was very charming. He was lovely. But you just knew if you told Kevin this is a secret, every single person that you know in the industry will know by dinner time.
That's great. Well, I mean, I'm fascinated by your world because it's such a unique. There's not like thousands of people running around doing what you do in the country, I would guess.
No, we at Broker VMA we do. Mark Lucas does some at REMA. Steve Murray does some over at Real Trends, and that's sort of, those are the three of us sort of do the bulk of it. T360 is doing some as well, although they sort of act more as a consultant technology piece.
Right.
But yeah, there's about three or four of us that do it, and we all get along well because there's so many potential clients, right?
Yeah.
There's like 13, 14, 15,000 brokers with 25 or more agents across the US and Canada at least. And so there's lots of business.
And it's, you mentioned it before that more than likely it's going to be someone in the area that's going to acquire
Yes.
and that would be the most common response. But then you shared your other story, the gentleman who was not happy with the true valuation. He actually was able to find someone who wanted to enter a market.
Oh, 100%. So he sold to IAD, and they're a French company coming in with a totally different model, and they don't have offices, and they wanted a foothold in the Florida marketplace. So God bless both of them, the fact that they found that win-win. But
Yeah.
it's interesting. Most of the time, if you're looking, like if I know you spent a lot of time with the San Diego Padres, and I know now you're in Florida, and you've been in Arizona, and we've done business in all three of those states. When you look at someone in Arizona, for example, we recently did an independent that was bought, that we arranged to be purchased by Engel and Volker.
Hmm.
And it's perfect when it's a win-win, right? So you always want it to be mutually beneficial on each party's side. And in this case, the principles were so compatible that it was just easy, right? They met, when we facilitated the introduction, and when they got together, they just connected. There was that compatibility right out of the blocks. And so it makes it a really nice transaction because the person selling receives their money, they receive the ability to sell at the new brokerage, and the buyer expands their reach tremendously and has the benefit of the local knowledge. So it was a good transaction.
I know there are differences, in the real estate world between Canada and the US, right?
Yes.
One is the way our MLS system in the US is definitely a lot weirder than something very uniform you have in Canada, which I long for down here. How about in your world, in your very specific world? Are there differences between the countries that you have to kind of, obviously you have a lot of experience, but early on, did you have to kind of figure that out?
Oh, I still have to figure it out.
Okay.
So Canada and the US are different. And one significant difference is in the US, you guys do a fabulous job of taking a real estate brokerage and adding all sorts of ancillary revenue sources to it so that even if the brokerage itself doesn't make money, your title, your mortgage, your relocation, those make money. And that's a brilliant way to bundle things because, as you and I know, if you control the customer, then you're able to control the revenue source for those ancillary services. In Canada, it's much more regulated, and we are not able to do that.
So there are some negative things.
Oh yeah, Canada. I mean, I'm a very proud Canadian. I bleed red and white. I absolutely love our country. I feel very fortunate to live here. Sudbury, as you and I said, has 330 lakes. It has all sorts of forests. As you mentioned, you were out to Vancouver and Alberta. It's spectacular, right? The country is spectacular. That being said, I'm a huge fan of America as well. I have clients in Wyoming. We just did a phenomenal transaction for the Prescotts in Wyoming. Salt of the earth people. They live in a beautiful part of the world. Their son's playing varsity football at college, and we found them a buyer who shared their values of family and faith.
Wow.
And so it's like a perfect connection. And I adore them. So, and I love the part of the world they live in. We have another client in Washington State. It's just, we are so lucky to live in North America. Like it is so vast and so full of wilderness and so full of places you can just sort of get away.
the way you talk about your business, first of all, I know you love what you do, but there had to be a time where you said, no, we don't really fit. We can't work together. Has that
Yes.
happened?
Yes, it has. It's usually so we always strive for win-win and sort of mutually beneficial. And that may come from the mediation I did as a family lawyer. I don't know. But I always figured that this isn't like I'm trying to sell you a used car bill and then run away, right? It's a long-term relationship. So the Prescotts, for example, they sold to Dennis Schick and Chad Oshner. Well, they're going to be together for at least the next 3 years because the Prescotts are going to continue to sell. Dennis and Chad are going to be running. They're going to be moved their head office to Wyoming. So it's a relationship. It's a minimum 3-year relationship. And so if you aren't in it for a mutually beneficial deal, if you're trying to pull one over on someone, then we can't help you because it just doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
You try to screw somebody and it's just a very negative type of transaction. So that, yes, we have turned people away when they did not appreciate that it's in their best interests for the deal to be mutually beneficial.
Yeah. No, I mean, I ran an escrow branch for 10 years and usually it was an investor doing something shady, but
Yeah.
really just don't play by the rules or just don't understand, that there are things you have to do and things you can't do, and you have to say no. And that's weird because that's turning away potential revenue, potential referrals, all kinds of stuff. But ultimately, I kind of thought you would be the same way.
Well, I think it goes back to that whole good people. You want to do business with good people,
Yep.
right? I mean, I love my business partner. He's one of my best friends. He's a good person. And so it's a pleasure to work with them. And you want to raise good people. You have a son in DC. I have 4 kids. I have 2 boys and 2 girls. Like, you want them to be good people. You want to be kind and good and try to make the world a better place because those are the people you want to spend time with.
Norma, this has been amazing. I knew this was going to be a great episode. So is it Katarina who helped us connect?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So you should give her my thanks. This has been wonderful.
I thanked her already. I'll thank her for you too.
Great. So this is the same question I've asked every guest since Jay Thompson back in 2015. Jay's an interesting character, good guy. And even though you're not a practicing realtor, I'm going to guess you have a great answer for this question. That is, what one piece of advice would you give a new agent just getting rolling in the business?
So I love that you end with the same question every time. Like, in 10 years, the consistency is quite impressive.
Yeah.
So my from what I see and from valuing so many real estate brokerages and getting a sense of what agents are the most valuable, it's about expertise. It's about a specialty. So if you think about it, if you're getting into the business, and I know a couple of younger people who are, I think the way to look at it is, okay, what do I know best? Am I a former hockey player and I know lots of professional hockey players? Am I so familiar with the neighborhood that I can tell you every bakery, every butcher, every tea shop, every place there? Is there a mortgage lender that I'm close to who's going to send me all sorts of power sale clients? Is there a new home builder that I know well and I can sell his lots? Is there an ethnic community that I'm part of that I know intimately? And
Yep.
To me, it's that level of expertise and intimacy with a neighborhood built where you can become the go-to person for that neighborhood. Because as we know with real estate, it's so local, right? It's so focused on the corner of Main and State. It's what you know and what you know intimately and better than somebody else that I think gives you a tremendous advantage. So that is my humble advice.
It may be the first person to be that specific about that answer. I'm always, that's pretty cool because it's hard. It's hard to come up with something different after 400 plus responses, but that's awesome. Norma, if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So BrokerVMA.com is our website and all my contact information is on there.
Great. Well, look, continued success to your children and to you and your family. I mean, I am so excited for you, slightly jealous as well that you have a couple of boys playing at the level they're playing at. I'm sure your daughters are fantastic in volleyball as well. This has been wonderful. And thank you so much for finding some time this morning. And I appreciate you very much.
Can I say go Jays?
Yes,
Bill?
you can.
Go
Please.
Jays. And hopefully by the time this airs, we will have won 3 in a row.
Fingers crossed. Thanks, Norma.
Thank you very much, Bill.